The silver ships drifted through the cold darkness between stars, their once bright hulls now dim and scarred. Inside the largest vessel, Zephyr pressed her glowing hand against the viewing window and watched another star fade behind them. Her people, the Kithera, had been traveling for so long that she could barely remember what home felt like. Elder Vex, she called softly to the old being who sat in the center of the ship's command chamber. The energy readings are getting worse. We lost 2 more today. Vex's form flickered like a candle in the wind. Once, the Kithara had been beings of pure energy, living forever among the stars. They had kept the universe's greatest secrets safe in massive libraries that floated between dimensions. For millions of years, they had been the keepers of cosmic memory, trusted by all the ancient races to guard knowledge too. Dangerous for any single world to hold dot, but that was before the accident. Before they learned something they were never meant to know. "How many ships do we have left?" Vex asked, his voice tired and weak. 43, Zephyr replied. Down from 45 yesterday. When the Kithara had first discovered the truth about how the universe would end, they thought they were helping. The cosmic libraries contained hints and pieces, but no complete picture. They had worked for decades to put the puzzle together, believing that knowledge could save everyone. They were wrong. The Cosmic Tribunal had appeared like angry gods, their ships blotting out entire star systems. The trial was swift and merciless. The Kithara were found guilty of seeking forbidden knowledge. Their punishment was exile and mortality. No longer could they live forever. No longer could they return to their dimensional libraries. They were cast out to wander space until their energy finally died. That had been 200 years ago. The Kithara had tried to find refuge on countless worlds. Advanced civilizations turned them away in fear, worried that harboring cosmic criminals would bring the Tribunal's anger down on them. Primitive worlds either worshipped them as gods or attacked them as demons. Neither response was what the Kithara needed. They needed a home. They needed acceptance. They needed someone who would see them as people, not as cosmic mistakes. "Elder," said Kea, another of their scouts, "we have found another world." The signals suggest a young species, barely out of their home system. Vex sighed. They had approached so many young races before. Usually, it ended badly. Either the young species was too frightened to help, or too eager to use the Kithara for their own purposes. Some had even tried to capture them, hoping to steal their cosmic knowledge. "What kind of beings are they?" Vex asked. "They call themselves humans," Kaya replied, studying the energy readings on her screen. "They live on a blue world called Earth. They have only recently developed space travel. Their technology is basic, but they seem curious about the universe." Zephyr felt a small flicker of hope in her chest. "Maybe this time will be different." "It is always the same," said another voice. Thane, one of the younger Kithara, floated near the back of the command chamber. "They will either fear us or try to use us. We should keep moving and die with dignity, rather than face another rejection." Many of their people agreed with Thane. They had been disappointed so many times that hope seemed foolish. Some preferred to drift in space until their energy finally burned out, rather than face another world that would cast them aside. But Vex was tired of running. His people were dying. Every day, more Kithera simply faded away, their life force finally exhausted. He could not let fear keep them from trying one more time. "Show me this world," he said, the main screen filled with images of a small blue planet spinning slowly in the warm light of a yellow star. It was beautiful, covered in swirling white clouds and vast oceans. The continents were green and brown, full of life. "The humans have divided their world into many nations," Kaya explained. "They often fight among themselves, but they also work together on big projects. They have built space stations and sent ships to explore their nearby worlds. Are they violent? Zephyr asked. They can be, Kaya admitted. But they also show great kindness to each other. They care for their sick and old. They create art and music. They seem to value life, even when it is difficult. Vex studied the planet for a long time. He thought about all the worlds that had turned them away. He thought about the Cathara who had already died in exile. He thought about the ones still alive, growing weaker every day. Maybe Thane was right. Maybe it was better to die in the cold darkness of space than to face another rejection. But Vex remembered what the Cathara had once been. They had been teachers and protectors. They had helped countless races grow and learn. Even in exile, even facing death, they still had knowledge that could help others. We will approach this Earth, he decided. But, carefully. We will send a small ship first to make contact. If they reject us, we will leave them in peace. And if they accept us? Zephyr asked. Vex's form brightened slightly. Then maybe we will finally find what we have been looking for all these years. The other Cathara looked at each other with a mixture of hope and fear. They had been disappointed so many times before. But they were also desperate. Their energy was running out, and this might be their last chance to find a home among the stars. As their ships changed course toward the small blue world, none of them could imagine what waited for them there. They expected either rejection or exploitation. The same responses they had received from every other species. They could not know that humanity would surprise them in ways that would change both their species forever. Dr. Sarah Chun had been having a normal Tuesday morning when her coffee was interrupted by the most important phone call in human history. Sarah, you need to get to the observatory right now, Dr. Martinez said, his voice shaking with excitement. We have visitors. Real ones. Sarah grabbed her jacket and ran. As Earth's leading expert in theoretical alien contact protocols, she had spent years writing papers about what humanity should do if aliens ever visited. She never expected to actually use those papers. The small Cathara scout ship landed in a field outside the Arecibo Observatory, its silver surface gleaming in the morning sun. It was beautiful in a way that made Sarah's chest ache, like looking at a work of art that was too perfect for this world. 3 beings emerged from the ship, and Sarah's breath caught in her throat. They looked like people made of starlight, their bodies glowing with soft energy that shifted from blue to gold to silver. They moved gracefully, but Sarah could see something wrong in the way they carried themselves. They looked tired, hurt, afraid. Sarah walked forward slowly, her hands empty and visible. She had read enough science fiction to know not to make sudden movements around aliens who might have weapons that could turn Earth into a parking lot. Hello, she said simply. My name is Sarah. Welcome to Earth. The 3 Cathara looked at each other with surprise. The one in front, a female with energy that flickered between blue and silver, stepped forward. I am Zephyr, she said, her voice like music played on crystal bells. We are the Cathara. We come seeking refuge. Sarah blinked. In all her papers about first contact, she had imagined aliens coming as conquerors, explorers, or traders. She had never imagined aliens coming as refugees. Refuge from what? She asked gently. Zephyr's glow dimmed. We have been cast out by those who rule the cosmos. We are dying, and we have nowhere else to go. We do not ask for much, only a place to rest before we fade away completely. Sarah felt her heart break a little. These beings were so beautiful, so obviously advanced, but they looked like people who had been running for too long. She could see the exhaustion in their movements, the way their light flickered like candles in a draft. Are you hurt? She asked. Do you need medical help? Food? Water? The 3 Cathara stared at her. The male on the left, whose energy was more golden than the others, spoke up. You ask if we need help, he said slowly. You do not ask what we can give you. You do not ask what weapons we have or what knowledge we carry. Should I? Sarah asked, confused. Every other species has, Zephyr said quietly. They either fear us or want to use us. No one has ever asked if we needed help. Sarah looked at these three tired, frightened beings and felt something shift inside her chest. Maybe they were aliens from space, but right now they just looked like people who needed kindness. Well, do you? She asked. Need help, I mean. Within hours, word of the alien arrival spread around the world. Sarah had expected panic, riots, maybe wars. Instead, she got something much more complicated. The world's governments did react with fear and suspicion, just as she had predicted. Military forces mobilized. Emergency sessions were called. News reporters asked if Earth was being invaded, but ordinary people reacted differently. When videos of the tired, flickering Cathara appeared on social media, humans began responding in ways that surprised everyone. A grandmother in Ohio posted a video offering her spare bedroom to any aliens who needed a place to stay. A group of college students started a crowdfunding campaign to build proper housing for alien refugees. Children drew pictures of humans and Cathara playing together and posted them online. I don't understand, Zephyr said to Sarah as they sat in the observatory's cafeteria 3 days after first contact. More Cathara ships had arrived, but they remained in orbit, waiting to see how the first meeting went. Understand what? Sarah asked, offering Zephyr a cup of tea. The aliens could not drink it, but they seemed to enjoy the warmth. Your people, Zephyr said. We expected fear or greed. We have seen both so many times. But your kind offers help before they know anything about us. They open their homes to strangers from space. Why? Sarah thought about it for a moment. I guess because you need help, she said finally. And helping people who need it is just what we do. Or what we try to do, anyway. Even people you do not know. Even people who are not your own species. Sarah smiled. Especially then. Look, we are not perfect. There are humans who will fear you, who will want to use you. But there are also humans who will see you as people first and aliens second. And those humans will fight to protect you. That evening, Sarah watched the news with a mixture of pride and worry. Politicians were arguing about the alien presence. Some wanted the Cathara gone immediately. Others wanted to study them. A few wanted to arrest them, but the real news was happening on the streets. Thousands of people had gathered outside government buildings, holding signs that said things like, "Refugees welcome" and "Earth for everyone." Children carried drawings of humans and aliens holding hands. Elderly people shared stories of how their own families had once been refugees seeking a new home. This is unprecedented, the news anchor said. Never before in human history have we seen such widespread support for the arrival of alien beings. Protests are happening in every major city, but these are not protests of fear. They are protests of welcome. Sarah's phone rang. It was the President of the United States. Dr. Chun, the President said, I need you to ask the aliens a question for me. What question, sir? Ask them how many people they have up there in those ships. Because it looks like half of America wants to invite them over for dinner, and we need to know how many place settings to prepare. Sarah laughed despite herself. She looked at Zephyr, who was listening to the conversation with glowing eyes full of wonder. How many of your people are in those ships? Sarah asked. 437, Zephyr whispered. 437 Cathara, all that remain of our race. Sarah repeated the number to the President. Tell them we will make room, the President said. I do not know how we will manage it, but we will make room. When Sarah hung up the phone, she found Zephyr crying. The alien's tears were drops of pure light that fell like tiny stars. In 200 years of wandering, Zephyr said, No one has ever said they would make room for us. Your people have known us for 3 days, and they are already arguing about who gets to help us first." Sarah reached out and touched Zephyr's glowing hand. It felt warm, like holding sunlight. "Welcome home," she said simply. Outside, more humans gathered in the streets, carrying signs and flowers and food, all waiting to welcome strangers from the stars. 6 months after first contact, Zephyr stood in Maria Santa's kitchen in Barcelona, watching the elderly woman teach her granddaughter how to make bread. The little girl, Carmen, was only 8 years old, but she had appointed herself as Zephyr's official teacher in human ways. "See, Zephyr?" Carmen said, her small hands covered in flour. "You push the dough like this, then fold it over. Abuela says bread needs love to grow properly." Zephyr watched with fascination as the child's hands worked the dough. The Kithara did not need food, but they had never seen anything like this simple process of creation. On cosmic stations, everything was made instantly with advanced technology. Humans took time to make things by hand, even when they had machines that could do it faster. "Why do you not use your machines to make all your bread?" Zephyr asked. Carmen looked at her with the serious expression children use when explaining important things to adults. "Because then it would not taste like love," she said simply. Across the city, other Kithara were learning similar lessons. Thane had been placed with a family of artists who spent their days creating paintings that served no practical purpose except beauty. Kaya lived with a group of musicians who gathered every evening to play songs for no audience except themselves. At first, the Kithara had been confused by these activities. They had spent millions of years in cosmic libraries, focused on preserving knowledge and serving practical purposes. They could not understand why humans spent so much time on things that seemed to have no function. But slowly, they began to see the truth. Humans did not create art to serve a purpose. They created it because the act of creation itself was meaningful. They did not make music to solve problems. They made it because music made their hearts feel larger. "You are teaching us something we never learned in all our cosmic travels," Elder Vex told Dr. Chun during one of their regular meetings. "You are teaching us how to live, not just exist." The lessons went both ways. As the Kithara settled into human communities, they began sharing their knowledge in return. Not the dangerous cosmic secrets that had gotten them exiled, but practical wisdom gained for millions of years among the stars. The first gift was clean energy. The Kithara showed human scientists how to build generators that pull power directly from starlight, even at night, even through clouds. Within weeks, entire cities were running on stellar energy with no pollution or waste. The second gift was medicine. The Kithara understanding of energy patterns helped human doctors see diseases in completely new ways. Cancer became curable with energy realignment therapy. Depression and anxiety could be treated by helping the human brain's energy flows return to healthy patterns. But the humans surprised the Kithara again. Instead of simply taking these gifts, they insisted on understanding them. They wanted to learn how the technology worked, to improve it, to make it better. They formed joint research teams where humans and Kithara worked side by side as equals. "This is very strange," Kaya told Sarah during a visit to the Geneva research facility. "Other species have always wanted our gifts, but they treated us as servants who should provide them. Your people treat us as partners. Is that a problem?" Sarah asked. "No," Kaya said, her energy brightening. "It is wonderful. We have not been partners with anyone in so long we had forgotten how good it feels." The partnership was not without challenges. Some humans still feared the aliens, organizing protests and demanding they leave. Some governments tried to restrict Kithara movements or force them to share military technologies. A few extremist groups even attempted attacks, though they found that energy beings were much harder to hurt than they had expected. More difficult was the simple problem of biology. Humans and Kithara were so different that basic communication sometimes broke down. Humans needed sleep, food, and physical contact. Kithara needed energy meditation and could be hurt by strong electromagnetic fields. But for every problem, communities found solutions. Schools developed new programs that taught human children and young Kithara together. Cities built special districts with both human buildings and energy-friendly spaces for aliens. Families learned to make their homes welcoming to beings made of living light. The breakthrough came when 7-year-old Tommy Chun, no relation to Dr. Sarah Chun, became the first human to successfully communicate with a Kithara through pure energy, patterns instead of words. Tommy had been born deaf and used sign language to communicate. When he met Vel, a young Kithara who had been badly injured during the exile and could no longer form sounds, they found they could understand each other through light patterns and hand movements that bridged their two completely different ways of being. Look, Tommy signed to his parents, while Vel's energy danced in patterns that matched the boy's excitement. We can talk with lights. Soon, human children everywhere were learning basic energy communication. Kithara children were learning human sign language, spoken words, and even written symbols. A new generation was growing up bilingual in ways no one had imagined possible. But the most important change was harder to measure. The Kithara, who had spent 200 years expecting death, began to hope again. Their energy patterns stabilized. Their light grew brighter. For the first time since their exile, they began to believe they might have a future. "We are not dying anymore," Zephyr told Dr. Chun during a walk through Central Park. Children were playing nearby, human and Kithara together, their laughter mixing with chimes of alien joy. "What changed?" Sarah asked. "We found something we had lost," Zephyr said. "Purpose. For millions of years, we existed to serve the cosmic order, to protect knowledge. When we were exiled, we thought our purpose was gone. We were just waiting to fade away." She paused to watch a human girl teach a young Kithara how to skip stones across the pond. "But your people showed us something new. You showed us that purpose does not come from serving some grand design. It comes from caring for each other, from building a life together, from making bread with love." Sarah smiled. "I think you're teaching us something too." "What is that?" "That the universe is bigger and more wonderful than we ever imagined, and that it is full of people worth caring about, even when they are very different from us." That evening, as Sarah watched the sunset from her apartment window, she could see the lights of Kithara homes scattered throughout the city, glowing softly like earthbound stars. Earth had become something new, something unprecedented in the galaxy. It had become a world where two very different species were learning to build a life together, not as masters and servants, but as family. But unknown to the happy family sharing dinner across the planet, observers in the deep cosmic dark were taking notes. The Cosmic Tribunal had noticed Earth's defiance. They were not pleased, and they were coming. The first sign of trouble came at 3:17 a.m. Earth Standard Time, when every telescope on the planet detected massive energy readings at the edge of the solar system. Dr. Sarah Chen was awakened by an emergency call from the International Space Monitoring Center. "Sarah," Dr. Martinez said, his voice tight with fear, "you need to see this now." Sarah arrived at the observatory to find controlled chaos. Scientists ran between computer stations, their faces pale with worry. The main screen showed readings that should have been impossible. 12 ships, Martinez explained, each one the size of a small moon. They appeared out of nowhere an hour ago, and they are heading straight for Earth. Sarah felt her stomach drop. She looked around the room and spotted Zephyr, who was working with a team of human scientists to analyze the energy signatures. "Zephyr," Sarah called. Do you know what these ships are? Zephyr's light flickered nervously between blue and silver. Yes, she said quietly. The Cosmic Tribunal. They have come for us. Within hours, the ships took position around Earth, forming a perfect circle that blocked out entire sections of the night sky. They were beautiful in a terrible way, made of what looked like crystallized starlight and flowing darkness. Just looking at them made humans feel small and helpless. The message came at dawn, broadcast simultaneously to every communication device on Earth. The voice was cold and ancient, speaking in perfect English, but with an accent that suggested vast age and absolute authority. People of Earth, the voice said, you harbor criminals against cosmic law. The beings you call Kithara are exiles, cast out for seeking forbidden knowledge. Return them to us immediately, and your world will be spared judgment. In the emergency session at the United Nations, representatives from every nation gathered to decide humanity's response. Sarah sat in the gallery, watching as the most powerful people on Earth argued about what to do. We cannot fight beings who can travel between stars, the delegate from Germany said. We must negotiate. Negotiate what? Demanded the representative from Kenya. These beings want us to hand over our friends. That is not negotiable. Our friends? Scoffed the Russian delegate. They are aliens. They are not our responsibility. Sarah watched Zephyr, who sat quietly in the corner, her light dimmed with sadness. Around the world, Kithara families were gathering in human homes, holding their adopted children and wondering if this was goodbye. The debate continued for hours. Some nations wanted to surrender the Kithara immediately. Others wanted to fight. A few suggested trying to hide them, though everyone knew that was impossible against cosmic-level technology. Finally, the Secretary General called for a vote. The resolution was simple. Earth will not surrender the Kithara to the Cosmic Tribunal. The vote was closer than Sarah had hoped, but it passed. Humanity had officially chosen defiance over safety. The tribunal's response was swift. The next morning, one of their ships moved into low orbit over New York City. The ship was so massive that it cast a shadow across half of Manhattan. A new message was broadcast. You have chosen poorly, the ancient voice said. We will demonstrate the price of defying cosmic law. A beam of pure energy shot down from the ship, striking the empty ocean 50 miles from the city. The water simply vanished, leaving a perfectly circular hole 3 miles wide, and who knew how deep. The ocean rushed in to fill the gap, creating waves that could be felt on every coastline. The next demonstration will not target empty water, the voice warned. Sarah found herself in the strangest strategy meeting in human history. Military leaders sat beside alien refugees, trying to figure out how to fight beings who could make ocean disappear with casual ease. We cannot match their firepower, General Harrison admitted. Our best weapons would probably feel like insect bites to them. Then we do not fight with weapons, Zephyr said quietly. We fight with something they do not expect. What? Sarah asked. Truth, Zephyr replied. The tribunal cast us out because we learned something forbidden. But what if that knowledge is not meant to be forbidden? What if the universe itself wants that truth to be known? Elder Vex, who had been silent throughout the meeting, suddenly brightened. The Eternal Archive, he whispered. Of course. We never thought to check the Eternal Archive. Sarah looked confused. What is the Eternal Archive? It is the universe's own memory, Zephyr explained. Not created by any species, but part of the fundamental structure of reality itself. If our knowledge truly violates cosmic law, it would be blocked from entering the archive. But if it belongs there, then the tribunal has been wrong all along. Vex finished. The plan they developed was insane, desperate, and probably suicidal. But it was also the only chance they had. Human scientists worked with Kithara knowledge keepers. to build a massive transmitter array, linking every radio telescope on Earth with alien energy amplifiers. The goal was to connect directly with the Eternal Archive and upload the Forbidden's knowledge that had gotten the Kithara exiled. If the knowledge was truly forbidden, the Archive would reject it, and the Tribunal would be proven right. But if the Archive accepted it, this could destroy us all, General Harrison warned. If the Archive rejects the knowledge, the feedback could kill every Kithara on Earth and probably fry our entire communications grid. And if we do nothing, the Tribunal will definitely destroy us all, Sarah pointed out. Around the world, humans and Kithara worked together to build the transmitter array. In Tokyo, children helped carry equipment to rooftop installations. In Sao Paulo, elderly engineers worked alongside young Kithara to calibrate energy flows. In Cairo, university students linked their computers to alien processing systems. The Tribunal watched these preparations with growing concern. They had expected humanity to surrender quickly when faced with overwhelming force. They had not expected an entire planet to unite in defense of cosmic refugees. People of Earth, came another broadcast. You prepare to commit a grave violation of cosmic law. Cease these activities immediately, or face complete destruction. The response came not from Earth's governments, but from an 8-year-old girl in Mumbai who had learned to communicate in Kithara light patterns. Her message was simple, broadcast in both human languages and alien energy frequencies. No, our friends stay. Within an hour, similar messages were pouring in from every city on Earth. Children and adults, humans and Kithara, all sending the same response. No, our friends stay. The Tribunal had ruled the cosmos for millions of years. They had never encountered defiance like this. They had never faced beings who would risk everything for friendship. Activate the array, Sarah said into her communicator. Around the world, the transmitter array came online. The combined will of humanity and the surviving Kithara reached out across space and time, seeking the Eternal Archive, carrying the Forbidden's knowledge that had started this entire crisis. The Archive's response was immediate and overwhelming. Not only did it accept the knowledge, it embraced it, spreading it instantly to every corner of the universe. The truth that Kithara had discovered was not forbidden at all. It was vital. It was exactly what the universe had been waiting for. The cosmic truth was simple. The universe was not meant to end in cold death. It was meant to evolve, to grow, to become something greater. And that evolution required cooperation between species, the kind of cooperation the Tribunal had been preventing for millions of years. In orbit above Earth, the Tribunal ship suddenly went dark. On the flagship, ancient beings who had ruled through fear and isolation for eons found themselves cut off from the cosmic power they had hoarded for themselves. The age of the cosmic Tribunal was over. The age of cooperation had begun. 5 years after the day the cosmos changed, Sarah Chun stood in the gardens of New Geneva, watching her adopted daughter play with friends from 6 different star systems. The little girl was half human, half Kithara, impossible by all known science, but beautiful beyond description. Her name was Hope, and she glowed softly as she ran through the flowers with children whose parents had once been scattered across the Yugoslav galaxy. Hard to believe this is the same planet that nearly started a cosmic war, said Marcus Webb, Earth's new ambassador to the Galactic Cooperation Council. He was visiting from Luna Station, where representatives from over 200 species now work together to build a better universe. Sarah smiled, watching Hope show a young Zephyrian how to pick daisies without hurting the stems. I think the war was inevitable. We just chose the right side. The aftermath of the Tribunal's fall had been chaotic but wonderful. Within days of the Eternal Archive accepting the Kithara's knowledge, species across the galaxy began reaching out to Earth. Many had been oppressed by the tribunal for millennia, forced to live in isolation or fear. Others were refugees, outcasts, or simply curious beings who had never been allowed to explore beyond their home systems. Earth became the first planet in galactic history to officially declare itself a sanctuary world. Any being seeking refuge, friendship, or simply a new start was welcome, as long as they came in peace. The first arrivals had been the gentle ones, a species of living crystals who had been enslaved by the tribunal for their ability to purify energy. They had been so grateful for freedom that they gifted humanity with crystal gardens that could grow food directly from sunlight. Next came the wanderers, nomadic beings who traveled in living ships made of cultivated space coral. They had been forbidden from approaching populated worlds for fear of contamination. On Earth, they found communities that celebrated their stories and invited them to share their incredible maps of distant galaxies. The singing stars arrived third, beings of pure music who had been silenced by cosmic law for centuries. Human musicians worked with them to create new forms of art that could be heard across dimensional barriers. Ambassador Chun called a familiar voice. Sarah turned to see Zephyr approaching, her energy patterns now stable and bright with health. She wore human clothes now, specially designed fabric that could interact with her energy form. More importantly, she wore a wedding ring that matched the one on her human wife's finger. "Just Sarah, please," Sarah laughed. "You know, I hate the formal titles." "Old habits," Zephyr said. "The council meeting is starting soon. Are you ready for the big announcement?" Sarah nodded, though she felt a flutter of nervousness. Today, the Galactic Cooperation Council would vote on the most ambitious project in universal history, the construction of New Cosmos Station, a massive habitat that would serve as a permanent home for refugees, researchers, and anyone else who wanted to live in truly integrated communities. The station would be built using combined technology from dozens of species, powered by stellar energy and dimensional crystals, and designed to house millions of beings from across the galaxy. It would be a symbol of cooperation, proof that different species could build something together that none could create alone. As they walked toward the council chambers, Sarah reflected on how much had changed. Earth was no longer an isolated blue world spinning alone in the dark. It was the heart of a growing network of friendship and cooperation that stretched across the galaxy. The Cathara had found more than refuge. They had found purpose. Their cosmic libraries were being rebuilt, but this time as open archives that any species could access. The forbidden knowledge that had once gotten them exiled was now freely shared, helping civilizations across the galaxy prepare for the universe's next stage of evolution. Humanity had changed too. The species that had once fought wars over tiny differences now worked together to welcome beings who were completely alien. Human children grew up speaking languages made of light and music and quantum equations. Human families included adopted members from dozens of different worlds. "Nervous?" Zephyr asked as they entered the council chambers. "Terrified," Sarah admitted. "What if they vote no? What if the project is too ambitious?" "Then we try something smaller," Zephyr said simply. "And then something bigger. And we keep trying until we build the universe we want to live in." The council chambers were a marvel of cooperative engineering. The space had to accommodate beings who breathed different atmospheres, existed at different temperatures, and perceived reality in completely different ways. The result was a shifting environment that adjusted itself constantly to make everyone comfortable. Representatives from 237 different species filled the chamber. There were beings made of living metal, creatures that existed only as mathematical equations, and a delegation from the dreaming worlds whose representatives were technically asleep but participated through shared consciousness. Secretary General Okafor, an elderly Nigerian diplomat who would somehow become the person best qualified to manage interspecies politics, called the session to order. "Today we vote on the new Cosmos Station project," she announced. "This will be the largest cooperative construction project in galactic history. Before we vote, we will hear from the project's primary advocates." Sarah stood and walked to the speaking platform. Looking out at the assembled delegates, she saw beings who just 5 years ago had been strangers, enemies, or completely unknown to each other. Now they were working together to build something unprecedented. 5 years ago, Sarah began, the Cathara came to Earth as refugees, expecting rejection or exploitation. They found something different. They found people willing to make room at the table, even when they did not know what their new friends might bring to the meal. She paused, looking at the mixed group of humans and aliens in the Earth delegation. That willingness to make room led to the discovery that the universe itself wants cooperation. It wants different species to work together, to learn from each other, to build something greater than any of us could create alone. The chamber was completely silent. Even the mathematical beings had stopped their constant equations to listen. "New Cosmos Station is not just a construction project," Sarah continued. "It is a promise. A promise that the universe has room for everyone. A promise that being different is not a crime. A promise that home is not something you are born with, but something you build with the people you choose to love." She looked directly at the former tribunal representatives, ancient beings who had been stripped of their power but allowed to join the council as equals. "We are not asking you to forget the old ways overnight. We are asking you to help us build new ways. Ways where exile is not the answer to difference. Ways where friendship is stronger than fear." Sarah returned to her seat, and the vote was called. One by one, species that had been enemies for millennia voted yes. Species that had never spoken to each other before voted yes. Even some of the former tribunal members voted yes. The final tally was overwhelming. 231 votes for the project, 6 abstentions, and 0 votes against. The chamber erupted in celebration sounds that no human ear could have imagined. Crystalline chimes mixed with harmonic frequencies and quantum resonance patterns. The mathematical beings expressed joy through elegant equations that painted themselves across the air in glowing symbols. Later that evening, Sarah stood on the observation deck of the Luna station, looking out at the stars. In the distance, she could see the first construction ships heading out to the coordinates where new Cosmos Station would be built. The project would take decades to complete, but it had begun. Aunt Sarah. Hope came running up, her mixed human Cathara energy making her glow with excitement. "Mama Zephyr says the new station will have playgrounds made of solid rainbows. Is that true?" Sarah knelt down to hug her adopted niece. "I do not know about solid rainbows," she said, "but I know it will have places for children like you to play and learn and grow up with friends from all across the galaxy." Hope's human eyes sparkled with delight while her Cathara energy patterns danced with joy. She was living proof that the future was going to be stranger and more wonderful than anyone had imagined. As the night deepened, more families gathered on the observation deck. Human parents held alien children. Cathara guardians watched over mixed broods that defied every law of biology. Former enemies shared stories and laughed at jokes that required translation through 3 different forms of consciousness. "Do you ever miss the old days?" Zephyr asked, joining Sarah at the observation window. "When it was just humanity, alone with the stars?" Sarah thought about it for a moment, watching the construction ships disappear into the distance, carrying hopes and dreams from hundreds of worlds. "No," she said finally. "I miss the simplicity sometimes, but I would not trade this for anything. The universe is so much bigger and more wonderful than we ever imagined when we were alone. And it is full of people worth caring about." Outside the window, The stars shone down on ships and stations filled with beings who had found something they had never expected to find in the cold darkness of space. Home. Not the home they were born with, but the home they had built together. One friendship at a time, one kindness at a time.